Hello, this is Jeff Davis, executive producer of Teen Wolf.
And this is Christian Taylor, co-executive producer of Teen Wolf.
And we were watching the first scene of the newest episode of the second season, and this was actually not the first scene in the script. We rarely like to admit when a network has a good note, but this was their idea, actually, to switch this to the beginning. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really works because it sort of sets up a big mystery for the whole season.
Now, one thing that always bothers me about this scene actually is, and Barbara, our wardrobe designer, our costume designer, is going to hate me for this, but I hate the ripped white t-shirt. It looks ridiculous because it looks like it was cut with scissors.
Designer rips.
So it's designer ripped t-shirt, but look at that amazing wound on his side. And you know, in Teen Wolf, we always have the bite on the side. Do you know why that is, Christian?
No, actually.
I've explained this to you once
No,
before.
you have, but sometimes I just...
It's because I've always found that side of the body to be very vulnerable. There's something sexual about it. There's something almost primal.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is a great song by Prodigy. It's called Run with Wolves. And it kind of sets off the tone of our new season.
I love this opening.
That's the bats are a nod to our competition, Vampire Diaries. So we get a lot of flack about the wolf running. Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. You've never talked about it.
I think it looks great.
Look how amazing that looks. And this shot that they spent a long time on, it looks fantastic.
That shot was all Russell Mulcahy's idea. I remember when he was telling me, I wanted to jump over a cliff. I'm like, where are there cliffs in Beacon Hills?
Actually, where is Beacon Hills? That's the other...
Somewhere in Northern California. You were there for the shooting of this scene, right?
Yep. It was raining outside.
Actually, right outside the stage, right?
Yep.
But this is a nice flashback. It's very visceral. And I love J.R. Bourne. He always gives a nice, intense performance.
Yeah, and I think you wanted to sort of catch the story up and sort of remind everybody and sort of tell people what's going on with Scott and Allison in a very kind of efficient way. But with, what you do, I think, which is always so great, you always say, what's the conflict of a scene?
Right.
So that scenes have multiple levels instead of just being like a walk and talk. So I think this sort of catches the audience up very quickly.
Instead of just telling the audience, hey, Allison's not supposed to be with Scott.
Yeah.
And then we get the nice reversal. She promises Dad, never see him again, as long as you as long as you let him live.
Yeah.
And where is he headed? He's headed to Allison. So a lot of these were really difficult CG shots to do. This one worked out great. And the reason that shot works out great is because the camera's moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to do a digital character.
It's incredibly difficult on our budget, which is what's the tricky thing, because most of these shots would take forever to do and be rendered and rendered again, and months on a movie, and we have a hugely shortened time span in which to do it.
And yes, something I wanted for the first season, main credit sequence. And I actually worked with our composer, Dino Menigan, quite a bit on this this tune, our main title theme, which just turned out so epic and fun.
And I think this really says, hey, now you're watching season 2 and it's a whole sort of new thing. It's like...
It's on a different level.
It's sort of great, because I always talked to you about this, about how season 1 was a great sort of introduction and exactly what it should have been, and then I think season 2 sort of up the stakes in exactly the right way.
Yeah, many TV shows, the first season is all about trying to find an episode. We really just went for it. We wanted to do a nice, fast-paced thriller and get right back into the story, right back into the characters.
Maybe that was 4.
I love Holland.
She really upped her game. This not in the sense of she's always been a fantastic actress, but she rose to the role and really is a very, very, very interesting actress.
No, I'd call Holland the MVP of the season. Really, she really did. I mean, we gave her a lot of stuff to do.
That's the thing,
a lot of dramatic stuff, and she did it.
And there's Melissa, fantastic actress.
Melissa Ponzio, one of my favorites, and one of the nicest people in the world.
Yeah, just consummate professional. all our actors are, I've worked on many TV shows which will remain nameless. But our actors, we have an incredible group of actors who are incredibly professional and sweet and really great people.
And the nice thing for fans to always hear is that they do get along in real life.
Yeah.
They're like the best of friends. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember always hearing that like Mulder and Scully hated each other on X-Files. And I found that so disturbing. But these guys, they hang out. They go out to Vegas for Tyler's birthday with him. It's nice
great
when you have a cast that close and it shows on screen.
Yeah, and they always deliver for each other and are there for each other, which is great. Yeah. And it just creates a really nice atmosphere on set.
There's our director, Russell Mulcahy.
Oh, yeah.
Russell is one of the craziest people I know, one of the smartest, and just one of the most amazing people as well. Mm-hmm. And he comes from the feature film world and actually music videos. He directed Hungry Like the Wolf. He was the winner of the first Moon Man for Video Music Awards. And he always directs the first episode and the last episode, and he does just a brilliant job of it.
And he visually sort of established the whole tone of the show and
exactly.
Tenor, that's the right word.
There's another MVP of the season, Edie Mays. It's Victoria Argent. I remember reading a review of the episode where she dies. And sorry about that. Spoiler warning, everyone. If you haven't watched the entire season, please go and watch and then watch the commentary.
Yes. Yes, switch us off right now because we're going to do a lot of spoilers.
Yes.
Or would you like to do a full body cavity search? Mom.
It's funny because in this shot, in that window shot, there were crew members in the reflection of the windows, and we had to paint that out.
And that's, of course, one of those classic TV, film tropes of that it's the set was, is at ground level and you think
exactly.
you're on a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun to do, and I think it was shot about 4 times,
yeah,
wasn't
exactly.
it?
I did a pickup of this scene as well.
Yeah.
I directed some shots of this scene.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote another shower scene in episode 9, it was, because we needed to put it on the schedule again to get more shots. Because we were never happy with all the shower shots. Remember this joke? This was one of the first jokes I thought up of for the first season.
Yeah.
And a typical Styles moment. You got to introduce characters like these.
See me sneak.
Now back to the shower scene.
You know what you love to do, and I think it's also very clever for a show like this, is you like to intercut scenes with
yes.
different storylines going on, but they sort of create a tension between the two.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is when the line producer gets the script, when the production people get it and they see 90 scenes in a 42-page script, they panic. Yeah. And I say, don't worry, they're very short scenes and they're all intercuts. They still panic.
It's a lot of fun watching this, knowing that we now are... Oh, there we go.
Look at that reaction. It's perfect.
The other thing that's fun and that I've learned a lot from is sort of intermingling the comedy and the horror on this show, which is, I think, really...
It's not easy to do. It's a real rhythm thing. You have to find just the right moment to go back to horror and then let the audience breathe with a laugh. I remember Hitchcock talking about it, that as soon as you scare them, then you make them laugh, and then you can build the tension back up. Now, remember in the original draft, this was supposed to be a wolf's head that comes out of the water.
Not only in the original draft, I think we shot the wolf's head
We did
twice.
shoot the wolf's head.
Gags like that are very tricky, because if you don't have the money to build a really good wolf's head and it's articulated and, it doesn't work, so we had to think of something else.
Over and over. I remember picking up the wolf's head myself, opening and closing the damn mouth and trying to get it to look good. And then I said, you know what? It's going to be a hand.
Yeah.
A hand pops out of the water. It'll be a kind of homage to Carrie. That's it.
Yeah.
Last scene of Carrie.
And actually works great because we know who hand that is later on.
Yeah. And now an interesting thing to know is that scream from Lydia, that first scream, we repeat it all throughout the season. We use the exact same scream. And that's a very important clue for audience members, especially ones who will be watching season 3.
Dun, dun, dun. which we are now shooting right now. We're in the middle of it.
Now, this was an idea I came up with in the editing room to show all of these scenes, all of these parts of Beacon Hills. Because we needed to show somehow that the scream traveled all the way to Scott. And what we did was we took these establishing shots from all throughout the episodes and put them in there.
It's great.
There's Sheriff Stilinski, played by the amazing Lyndon Ashby, who, of course, was Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat.
And he's another wonderful person.
16-year-old redhead. Any other descriptors?
We are really lucky.
Green eyes, fair-skinned, and her hair is actually strawberry blonde.
Is that right?
Yeah.
This actor, as we all know, Dylan, it's effortlessly talented. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing finding an actor like Dylan.
Oh, look, everyone, wait, look on his head. If you see on his forehead, he actually...
If you rewind back, you'll see a mark on his forehead. What did he do?
He got hit by the camera.
He walked right into a camera.
This is the one she was just wearing? I'm not gonna let anyone hurt her. Not again. All right, just shove the thing in your face and let's find her.
And these... we're so lucky that these two love each other. They work so well together.
And they work so often.
Yeah.
It was freezing this night, and they were out in the cold, and all they wanted to do was leave. But they are troopers.
Guys, leave my house in 2 SUVs.
And this next joke we came up with in the writer's room, I believe, and not in the draft. I think this was in the outline.
Yeah, no, it was in it.
You got to make fun of the myth. So it's like, okay, they're following the scent. Let's see Tyler's head out the window. And these jokes always work when it's a pan to reveal. So
Okay, your family's got some serious
you go from serious conversation to he's got his head out the window like a dog.
And that's filmed basically in a black box.
Oh, you can talk about the grave scene. This scene's amazing.
Yeah, this is Russell at his best, and this was a great set outside of Atlanta. And we had this idea in the writer's room to do something pretty epic where we turn this thing over, which was... I didn't even know if we could physically do it.
And I hate funeral scenes, so we didn't do a funeral scene of Katherine Argent. So this was a way to remind the audience, yes, Kate Argent died.
Yep.
And we introduced our new character by it as well. This lonely kid, Isaac, played by the amazing Daniel Sharman, who is British as well.
Yes.
I like having Brits around me for some reason.
Well, it's classy. It just brings a level of class to you.
And most of the gravestones actually are fake.
Yeah. And then, what was also creepy about this graveyard is you see all the little graveyards? They're all baby graves.
That is so creepy. That's right. All the little headstones are baby headstones.
Yep.
So we're shooting in a real graveyard surrounded by dead babies. That's how we do things on Teen Wolf.
And it's
surrounded by dead babies.
It was so freezing. I mean, you could see the freeze.
I think I looked. We shot that twice. Because the first time we saw a real man's hand, and I said, it's got to look...
androgynous.
It's sort of androgynous,
yeah. That was very smart.
There's got to be a question about it.
But look at that. That's movie production value right there. And this is... I mean, I think you, and it's set from the top, is that you've really made sure that the show aims really high on this incredibly restrictive budget and time schedule. And I think the look of the show is even better than most of the equal shows on television in terms of other networks. And I think we're incredibly lucky that you push everybody in a very good way to do their best work.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
And that's done in a little bit of a set, of course.
Yeah, you can see the seams in the walls, actually.
Yeah,
it still bothers me. I'm like, I'm going to go back and have the CGI company paint it out for the next version of the DVD. I love a shot like this. This is Russell's specialty as well. Slow push in and reveal of his eyes. Now, in the original version of this shot, we saw too much of the guy. So what we did was we digitally covered him up by making the ground larger.
Oh, that's great.
When he's digging stuff out. Because we still need it to be a surprise. People in the audience need to think that's Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first scene we ever shot with Daniel Sharman. And I remember looking in the monitor at this and thinking, oh my God, that kid's a star.
Yeah,
The camera loves him.
Yeah.
And I'm all about big entrances. I'm constantly talking about big entrances, right?
Yep.
The cowboy type entrances. Now we meet our new alpha.
Need a hand?
I made him do that line like 10 times, I think, didn't I?
Yep.
And I asked him, I said, do it over and over again until it sounds tough. Give us a little John Wayne.
And there's the great set that you built for the first season.
Yeah, but funnily enough, when we came back and they put the set up again, it looked nothing like it did the first season.
Yeah.
There was about a day or two of work on it that still needed to be done, weathering it down. So if you compare that, we kept it a little bit out of focus, but if you compare it to the original season, it doesn't quite look the same.
No.
And coming up is one of the gags that's hardest to do on this show, which is someone gets turned upside down.
I think I said recently, let's not do any more of these shots, these cable shots.
Someone getting yanked up by their feet.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is the actor has to sit there and do take after take, hang there and do take after take, and slowly but surely you can no longer understand them because all the blood is rushing to their head.
Yeah.
They sound like they've had a sinus infection. But this turned out quite funny, I think.
Yeah, very good.
Not the same for an alpha.
And it's poor Scott McCall who always gets trapped.
Yeah, it'll make Derek stronger too.
A lot of fun.
Whoa, hey, look at this. You see this?
Now, what the audience won't see is all of the stuff our effects people paint out, because there's actually something like 3 wires holding them up.
Right.
3 different cables.
Next time you see a tripwire,
and they're all wrapped around his midsection.
I mean, I think it's funny because in the script, of course, it had cogs fire and you know, cables move, and you really don't have to do any of that.
No.
And we didn't do it because we didn't end up filming it, but it actually worked really well. But.
Now here's another big entrance. Upside down, the first time you see Argent. And it's a great, tough entrance. And this kneel down in this is perfect. This was not my idea. That was Russell's idea. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the great things about Russell is he's always got the visual in his mind. And as a writer, that's exactly the kind of person you have to team up with.
Yeah.
is this one of yours? It's good. Fine, very constricting.
What are you doing out here, Scott?
And the fun part is coming back to these relationships.
Yeah.
You know, they're still contentious, but in a way they've got a peace treaty going on.
And it's also a first episode, especially of a second season, is incredibly hard to do because you have to re-establish all the relationships, all the politics, and do it in a way that actually drives some form of narrative. And I think that's why we came up with sort of the mystery of the Omega and who that is, and wondering if Lydia is that person and everything. And that was a very simple storyline, but it allowed us the space to create all these other stories to be rebooted.
We writers in the room, we called it the A story, the B story, and the C story. And for a first episode, what helps is having a very strong A story. Can we find Lydia before she turns into a killing machine werewolf?
Yep.
And that is really what the episode is about. And we get to introduce several new characters. We get to push forward several different relationships and complicate things. And it's easiest when you have a strong foundation like that.
Great. You see, very simple, but
very simple editing. Yeah.
I mean, it's a few TV. Oh, the sun was rising, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I remember that. So it looks a little funky, that sky. But
one of the things you always do in production is you are always battling the light.
Yeah.
The sun is always coming up, so you are scrambling by 5:30 in the morning to get those last few shots. And what we do is there's a process called color correction, and all we have to do is darken down the color of that sky. So if it's bright daylight, we can fake it as much as we can. Okay, and now that's Isaac's father, who is actually very well known as playing Dawson's dad, John Wesley Shipp. And to me, he was well known playing The Flash on CBS's series. I think it only lasted a season, but I loved the show. And he does a great job here. It's very against type, because in Dawson's Creek, he was a really kind, loving father. And here he kind of plays an abusive jerk.
Yeah, and he's really a great actor.
total pro, too.
My son plays for the team. Well, I mean, he's on the team. He doesn't technically play. Not yet.
And of course, there's the introduction of Derek, who's always just standing there in the woods and disappears.
Something wrong, Isaac?
He likes it because it's one day of work, and he's out.
And he returns 5 days later.
We call in Tyler Hoechlin for 4 hours. We say, stand there. All right, you're done.
What'd this one take?
Her liver.
Now, we covered up this body, which was taken from Rob Hall's shop, our makeup effects guy.
She ate the liver? No, I didn't say she ate it. I just said it was missing. And you know what? Even if she did, so what? It's the most nutritious part of the body.
This was actually the first scene we shot of the new season, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
It was a great first day, and I remember they couldn't get the techno crane to work properly.
No. We were like 2 hours over schedule at the beginning.
Yes. On the first day of a new season, when you're 2 hours behind, it's terrifying.
And the network executives have arrived, and they're sitting there, and we're all eating bagels and trying to sort of...
Don't worry, guys. Things are going to go great.
It's going to be fine.
Right? Because the night that Lydia was bit, she was with you.
Now, how, for Jeff, for you, because I was not on for season 1, what was your sort of thoughts about how you wanted this season to play in terms of in a different way from the other season?
Well, I wanted it to be actually faster paced.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I've always said to the network that I don't want to do soap opera, I want to do romance. So it was a real concerted effort to do, have Scott and Allison have a kind of secret romance. It was a great introduction for Jackson.
Yeah, it's really fun. I think that was my line, security.
But it was really about amping up the pace, the suspense. I said to the network, I remember saying, we came up with a really good, we ended on the show with a really good thriller. So let's keep that going.
Yeah.
Totally naked. Now, it's supposed to get below 40 degrees tonight.
There's Orny Adams, who I remember sitting in the Melrose Improv in Los Angeles, watching him do stand-up comedy and thinking, this was even before I'd written the pilot, thinking to myself, there's Coach.
He's a really funny guy in terms of the show, I think, and it really helps these sorts of scenes.
What's great about Orny, too, is he really wants to do some dramatic acting as well. So I said to him last season, I said, all right, I'm going to give you some dramatic stuff to do. I'm going to give you a dramatic scene in the last episode, and I'm going to need you to bring the emotion. And he did. He did a good job. It was one of the most vulnerable moments I've seen.
It's so funny seeing this set here and thinking this was in Atlanta, and now it's all been transported for season 3 into LA, and we've now built a whole high school.
Yeah. So much of the high school you see in this episode is a real high school. The locker room was always on our set, but that classroom is a real high school. But what you'll see in season 3 is sets, and they look unbelievable.
Yeah.
They look amazing.
To say this, but he's right. I know. What if the next body part she steals is from someone who's still alive?
This is a pop quiz, Mr. Stilinski.
And there is Adam Fristow, who plays Adrian Harris, who is that teacher who made your life hell in class.
Your voice, triggering the only impulse I've ever had to strike a student repeatedly and violently. I'll see you at 3 for detention. You too, Mr. McCall?
No, sir.
When I think back to all the kooky teachers I had, and the good ones and the really bad ones. So if you are in there in high school and you have some really crazy teachers, just know that they're
it's a common experience.
It's a common experience.
Now this scene we shot twice as well. There are beats and shots from the original, but I remember telling the director, telling Russell, that I wanted it to be far more handheld, and that we need to shake the camera a lot more and give it a kind of frantic feel and see those tissues drop. Now, most of this black blood is real. It is just colored water, I think, or corn syrup. But in the next few shots, you'll see, the ending shots of this scene, they're done by CGI.
I remember we had to actually reshoot that because the blood didn't look good.
Yes, yeah.
Looking a little pale there, Jack.
You know, it's interesting. You always talk about gags, and I think you're absolutely right. Gags like that, or what's coming up, you know, can take a lot of time to do, and they eat up time. So you have to be very judicious about how you use them.
I actually, when they were reshooting this, I took the paintbrush out of the makeup artist's hand and said, I was like, do you mind? And he said, no, go right ahead. And I did the painting of Cullen's blood running out of his ear.
Oh, you know, guys, I could tell you quite a few things that I've seen Jeff do on set.
I've done stunts. See all that? I painted that.
You've trimmed hair on wolves. And
I have.
Pushed ears back and scraped walls so they look right.
Yeah, what's funny about Colton, look at him. There's not a hair out of place on his head. It's like magic, isn't it? What I'm going to miss about Colton in the third scene is his perfect hair.
What does it mean?
That was very hard to do. That was something we thought about, of sort of Derek disappearing into the darkness. And
now the one coming out of his nose, that's CG. It looks pretty good. The trick with doing CG blood is you have to add a tiny touch of highlight to it to give it volume. It's very difficult to do.
There you go. I learn something every day. Oh.
I'm going to give a shout out to Laura, our music supervisor. I love the music she's picked for this show.
Yeah.
And she was just nominated, actually, by the music supervisors for Best Scripted Show.
It's so fantastic. And she's working with no budget yet again, and she's discovering bands. And
there's Stephen Lunsford.
Mystery.
Another spoiler alert.
Yeah.
He had no idea he was going to be the big bad guy for this season.
Yeah. We sort of make it a rule, actually, not to tell people.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of that right now.
Yeah.
And
I don't tell them that they die in the episodes either. I feel like I should probably tell them.
Yeah, that kind of would be nice.
They just find out when they turn the page, oh, I'm dead. I did warn them this year. Now, this is a very difficult scene to shoot because it's basically two people against a wall trying to act. And we're lucky because it's beautifully lit by cinematographer Jonathan Hall. But Russell was very, very nervous about shooting this scene. And I said, you have to remember something about TV, Russell. In film, sure, they come for the special effects and the big CGI stuff. But in TV, they come back for the faces. And sometimes your shot just has to be the star of your show.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, Crystal is very good, and so she really delivers performance like this. She loves stuff like this that's dramatic.
Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. We had a lot of difficulty with Tyler's hair again this season, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's funny because now we finally have it perfect.
Aren't you supposed to cry if you know?
But he came to me at one point during the season, and he said, I can't stand my hair. And I literally said to him, I was like, well, what's wrong with it? He's like, I hate it. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, can we change it? I said, of course we can change it.
So funny.
So, but in certain shots of the season, it looks like a helmet almost.
Yeah.
I mean, we cut it because his hair was so unruly. It wreaked havoc on continuity for the first season. And we made it short this season, so we thought we'd be fine. But still caused difficulties.
It's even shorter this season, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a little longer on top. And he has a lot more control with it now. Yeah. Tyler's turning into a great leader. And I love that moment.
Yeah.
A little bit of slow motion. Now, see, Dylan's reactions here are phenomenal. He's so good at this. And oftentimes I will tell him, just improv a little.
Yeah, because
he's a really good physical comedian.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
The T-shirts. I was going to mention the T-shirts. Barbara Vasquez, our costume designer, picked these great T-shirts, which are kind of a nod to the original movie. Because Stiles was known for his T-shirts in the original movie. So she found this brand that had all these great little sayings like, I support single moms. And it was a stripper on a strip pole.
Now, sit down.
Oh, what were you going to say?
No, I think he's interesting because he really is so talented, Dylan. but his physical comedy, he doesn't necessarily trust it, so he often goes big with it on his initial instinct, and then you bring him back, and then it's perfect.
Yeah. We have a saying on set, when we want him to go a little lighter, we say, less Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Now, I had Russell's going to hate me for telling this, but I had him shoot Gerard's entrance twice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was there.
And one of the reasons for that is because, I'm very big on grand entrances, and I knew this entrance had to be big. We're setting up the main villain for the season.
It's sunny there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
in the next
sunny.
shot,
it wasn't sunny in the other shot.
Yeah, but I think the reshoot worked really well.
That's
I said,
great.
Get me some slow motion, and I worked with Dino, our composer, to come up with a real theme. Now, see, the important part was to have everyone sort of staring and saying, who is this new guy?
Yeah, $900.
And how expensive is this?
The funny thing about this scene, it's impossible to snap a memory card in half.
Yeah.
Things made out of steel.
Yeah, especially when they're scored. It's even worse because they don't snap the right way.
Yeah. Michael Hogan has become one of my favorite people in the world. Now look at that slow motion shot. Look at that face. When I heard he was available and interested, I said to the network, get him. He's amazing. I mean, it's Saul Tigh from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
And he is just perfect. And he's become a good friend of mine. Every time he's back in LA, I always make time, no matter how busy I am, to get lunch with him. And he just brings a sense of power and gravitas to this role. I knew he would be perfect for Gerard.
Yeah.
And he has fun with those lines. Another amazing thing about him is he knows every line, every word, every comma, every period of his lines. It's unbelievable. He's the most prepared guy I've ever met.
Well, he's also a huge theatre actor, so it's interesting for these young actors to have to work with theatre actors, because then they see it's a whole nother sort of level of work.
Yeah, and there's a great improv coming up here from Lyndon Ashby. Remember we had written into the scene that Tiles should bring a tie?
Yes.
And we didn't have time to shoot it, really, where he's putting on the tie, because I had this whole idea that he's putting on a tie, and Scott looks back at him and says, what are you doing? Putting on a tie. So we had it with him, but we didn't have time to shoot the dialogue. So what happened was, you'll see.
The non-hunting side of the family. There could be non-hunting origins. That's possible, right?
I know what they are. They're reinforcements.
Dun, dun, dun.
And there he is.
The two of you, unbelievable. Pick up my tie.
It works. I directed this scene, actually. Oftentimes, during the shoot, there are little scenes that need to be picked up by someone else. And while Russell's shooting main unit, I said, all right, let's do it. I chose a few angles, and we banged through it really quickly. I've never done an episode yet, but I like picking up little scenes like this.
You did a major part on the last episode, though, of this season.
And these are the moments where we can catch up, because these are simple shots. There are parts of the show that I call the TV scenes and then the movie scenes.
Yeah.
This was definitely a TV scene. You shoot it simply, you get out. And then you spend your time on the really big shots, like the scene, like the graveyard scene, or a scene like this.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things about this scene was setting up the new relationship between Scott and Stiles, how they're kind of on this path now to becoming sort of superheroes. And Scott now has mastered his powers in a way. And what he's doing is trying to use them for good. I know that's
typical Russell.
Typical Russell. Russell has a nickname because he did many, many Tales of the Crypt episodes. So they called him Russell Buckets of Blood Mulcahy. And he'll literally stand there with a bucket of blood, throwing it on the walls.
I think there was a problem because the ambulance had to be cleaned out and it cost a lot of money.
And that stuff sticks to the walls and you can't get it off.
Yeah.
You can barely get it off your hands when you're done with it.
Oh, yeah.
It probably cost thousands of dollars to clean the ambulance.
I don't want to think about it.
And now the looks between these two guys. Now that's when, like, a real friendship in real life helps the actor.
Yeah.
I love these shots.
This was second unit doing this. Yeah, this was...
Many genre shows like ours, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer used to do this, would rely on second unit stuff to pick up so much action stuff. It's the shots of running. These things can take a long time to do. And on a TV budget, you really need that. Now, I think the loping looked really good here.
Yeah,
it was one guy who did it really well. Dave Elson, our fantastic stunt performer.
Yeah, he's on this season and he's just amazing. He's amazing.
All these flips and things, they're phenomenal.
You're not Lydia.
Now, one thing I should also say is this show doesn't have a sound designer. Our editors are our sound designers.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And we had a great Foley team as well. But the editors do most of the sound designing. And that's a really hard job to do. So Alyssa and Ed are our main editors. They're phenomenal. I remember this scene. We said to Holland, "You're going to be naked in the woods. Are you okay with that?" She's like, "Sure,
yeah,
absolutely."
She's hilarious.
And this was, I always worried about this scene being too broad, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Lydia?
But Lyndon and Dylan had such good chemistry together, they pull it off. This moment right here.
Well, is anyone going to get me a coat?
Look at him.
Jesus. Yep, here you go. Wait!
That's typical Holland in terms of like she seems very vulnerable and then she actually delivers the joke, but it's broken.
Yeah.
No,
she's phenomenal at that. Now, didn't you shoot some of these scenes?
I shot a lot of this stuff. Not the action stuff, but we had a
stun baton stuff.
We had to reshoot this bit.
Yes.
That's reshot.
The reason we were reshooting this bit was because Tyler Hoechlin grabbed Tyler Posey's face and squeezed it. And I started nicknaming the dailies Fish Wolf. And I said, "Tyler, you can't do that to your actors." So we reshot it to make him look better.
And then I had to do all of this stuff with him hanging. This poor actor we had hanging from, we obviously was supported, but it's still to keep your arms above your head and everything.
I love that shot. Yeah. A good low-angle shot in a genre show really helps create power. And we wanted to reintroduce Argent as a powerful hunter.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Nothing.
Now, it's a new concept in this season of Teen Wolf, the idea of the Omega. And this is an important theme throughout the season. Can you survive without a pack? Will Scott be an Omega? So what we wanted to show Scott right in the first episode was, this could be your fate. This is where you could end up without a pack. And that's part of Derek's seduction with Scott. You don't want to end up like this, especially cut in half.
He wasn't, I swear. Gentlemen?
Should we talk about the swords?
I don't know. I think that's a huge lawsuit waiting to happen. I don't think you should. But it's interesting because all this was shot first and then the crew had to move on. And then I had to shoot all the actors' coverage. Yeah. So it's all done, obviously, over a whole night.
Well, what's wonderful about this is this was Hogan's first big speech. And I wanted to make sure that we gave him something sort of operatic. Something, I call these the Voldemort lines or the Emperor Palpatine lines. And he delivers them beautifully. And the idea was to make it feel big and epic and to really tell the audience, you're in for a new season and this one's going to be big. And then, of course, we cut a guy in half.
Because, as I am about to demonstrate...
I wish we could tell the story of the swords. We could tell it abbreviated, couldn't we? Basically, we got to set and the swords were not quite what we needed.
So we had to run looking for a sword.
And
now look at that shot. I can't believe we can get away with something like that on TV.
Yeah.
Those are entrails pouring out of the middle of a man.
It's pretty
You can't show nudity on TV, but you can show someone being sliced in half.
I know.
We need each other. The only way to fight them is together.
This location was great, and unfortunately we're not going to have it again because it's in Atlanta. All that river and stream in the background, it's all fake. It was a motorized, that's all motorized.
Well, it's not fake water.
No, it's not fake water.
But
it's pumped. It's like a giant waterfall.
No code. Not anymore.
Now these are the new rules of the season.
Now on, these things are just bodies waiting to be cut in half.
And we get a good montage here where we introduce all of the players.
Because I don't care if they're wounded and weak.
I love how that looked.
It's great.
That's one of those moments where the blood on his face looked perfect. And the reveal of the tissues.
I shot that too.
Oh, you're a genius.
It took a lot. Look at this is a huge, brilliant, really brilliant CG
that is
shot.
not a real cliff.
That was actually faced into a playing field.
This is one of the best sets we came up with, the subway.
Yeah, they did a great job, the production design department.
You know what they're getting into?
And look at that face.
We find them. We kill them. We kill them all.
Yeah.
And that's the first episode.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.